As the Chair said, my name is Peter Brierley. I head up policy issues in the Bank of England's Special Resolution Unit, which was created in February 2009 following the adoption of the Banking Act in the UK, which created a special resolution regime for failing UK banks and building societies, and designated the Bank of England as the lead resolution authority in the UK. And I'd like to express my thanks to QED for inviting me to speak on this panel about the UK perspective on the single resolution mechanism. So, if I can work out the technology. The first point to make is that the UK supports banking union in the Eurozone, which we hope will contribute to greater financial stability in what is one of the UK's largest trading partners. The single resolution mechanism, together with the tools and powers that are conferred on EU authorities by the Bank Recovery and Resolution Directive, is, in our view, a crucial component of both banking union and of ending perceptions that EU GSIFIs, if I can use that acronym, are too big to fail. I'd just take a moment to say that the directive, the Recovery and Resolution Directive, is a very important achievement, actually, and I'd like to congratulate the Commission and the European Parliament and the Council on this, because basically it introduces special resolution regimes broadly in line with the global standard, the FSB's key attributes, throughout the European Union. So the UK is a very big supporter of the directive, which will in fact, although we already have a regime, it will enhance our own regime in various ways. We can already achieve the economic consequences of a bail-in in the UK, but to do it we have to split up the bank and leave shareholder and certain creditor claims behind. They will then suffer losses, whereas the bail-in tool will enable us to do that, to write down creditor claims and or convert them into equity without having to split up the bank over the proverbial resolution weekend. It also introduces a statutory short stay on the exercise of termination rights by counterparties of failed banks, and it enables the resolution authority to require banks to make changes to their structures if that is necessary in order to make them resolvable. So these are important gains, and we like the bail-in tool so much in the UK that we're actually introducing it early. We're not waiting for the deadline of the 1st of January 2016. We've already incorporated it into a piece of domestic legislation, and the bail-in tool will take effect in the UK in round about the middle of this year. Without effective special resolution regimes, banks are dangerously reliant on the strength of their sovereigns. And this link between European banks and sovereigns grew much tighter during the crisis, which you can see by looking at the increased correlations between bank and sovereign debt spreads. Banking union should help to re-establish a much smoother and more uniform transmission mechanism for monetary policy in the Eurozone and ensure that credit supply can once again meet the real economy's needs. Should also reduce redenomination risk that is shared by single country members. But for this to succeed, the link between banks and sovereigns has to be broken, as Catherine was saying. But the single market as a whole, taken as a whole, does not need to involve a full-scale banking union, which is why the UK, as a non-Euro member state, does not need to join the banking union. What the single market needs is a common set of rules in this area, and that basically means the harmonised resolution toolkits that will be provided in all countries by the BRRD, which is a necessary condition for greater cooperation across resolution authorities in the EU, and this in the future will involve cooperation, for example, between the Single Resolution Board and the Bank of England in respect of both Eurozone and UK banks with operations in the other area. So the UK sees the SRM as an important step to underpin financial stability in the euro area. And it will be very important for both banking supervision and resolution to be exercised at the same overall level by a single authority, but of course not the same authority. Certainly, I would say, for the largest Eurozone banking groups that will be directly supervised by the ECB. That's 128 banking groups according to the latest ECB list. As Catherine was saying, there is an issue about how far that should extend beyond those groups. But in the UK, we would think it important for the supervisory authority to have the lead responsibility for determining whether a failing bank meets the conditions for resolution, because in the directive these are specified as a bank failing or likely to fail, and it not being reasonably likely that further remedial action can be taken to turn round the bank. Those are essentially supervisory or regulatory judgments, so we would favour the ECB having an important role in determining whether a Eurozone bank meets the conditions for resolution under the SRM. Ultimately, supervision cannot be carried out effectively without provisions for orderly failure mechanisms, and the SRM will hopefully deliver a better framework for that than currently exists in the Eurozone, because it should help to avoid tensions that could emerge between the single supervisor, the ECB, and the national resolution authorities in the Eurozone over how to deal with failing banks. And of course, in the absence of an SRM, market participants might continue to doubt whether individual Eurozone members have the ability to deal with bank failures nationally, and that could reinforce this adverse feedback loop between sovereigns and banks. We at the Bank of England will be looking to strengthen our relationship with the Special Resolution Board when it's up and running. We will want to sign an MOU with it on resolution issues along the lines of the MOU that we already have, for example, with the FDIC. And we will look forward to developing and agreeing with the Single Resolution Board resolution strategies and plans for UK banks that have significant operations in the Eurozone and for Eurozone banks with significant operations in the City of London. Now, I think this was another point made by Catherine. There's no doubt that when a bank fails, action to resolve it will need to be taken very quickly. So the UK has a strong interest in ensuring that the SRM delivers swift and effective outcomes. Now, we hope this will happen because, in theory, it should avoid uncoordinated action by individual participating member states and replace it with more consistent and centralised decision making. The UK, of course, is a major home and host jurisdiction, so it will be very important to ensure that these decision making arrangements are as streamlined as possible, which I think indicates the importance in many ways of trying to pre-agree preferred resolution strategies in advance for the largest European GSIFIs through either the CMGs, crisis management groups, or the resolution colleges. If the Group Resolution Authority is proposing to implement a pre-agreed strategy in the actual circumstances of a bank failure, it will be that much less likely, I think, that a host resolution authority will disagree with that and do something different, implement something different for a local subsidiary, which in my opinion would be a suboptimal outcome because it would increase the likelihood of a value-destructive breakup of a GCIFI along national lines. Given the interdependence between the key entities of most of these large GCIFIs, any breakup of the group along regional or national lines is likely to reduce the prospects of an orderly resolution in which access to critical economic functions is preserved and financial stability is maintained in each of the countries in which the group has material operations. So the bottom line is that cooperative approaches to resolution coordinated by the Group Resolution Authority, whether they're based on single point of entry or multiple point of entry approaches, are likely to be much superior to separate, uncoordinated and potentially competing actions by different resolution authorities.